And we should be live right now. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. This is our first ever attempt at doing a live Q&A with none other than our first guest, and his name is Brendan Tan. And so,
Yeah,
Brendan, welcome.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being crazy enough to try this with us. And about 349 others of you, if we're reading this correctly. So just to let you guys know the format for tonight, I have some questions that we've prepared ahead of time, but we don't want it to take up the whole discussion. Just some key things that as worship drummer we find important and we want to cover, and then we'll get to all of your questions. So we'll do our best. I can't make any promises that we'll cover everything. If Brendan has to go to the washroom or something like that.
Gotta do the laundry, so just gotta.
There you go. So it's our 9 p.m. Eastern, and it's your noon there in Sydney, Australia.
That is correct.
And so just to kick things off, why don't you just tell us how you got started, kind of like how you got to where you are today playing for Hillsong Young and Free?
To start off, I was raised in church, raised at Hillsong Church. I've been going since I was 2, so basically as long as I can remember. Grew up in church. I've got a brother. His name's Ben. He plays guitar, so we kind of grew up in church and grew up at home, just like jamming around, playing music together. And then, we just I started playing at church at a very young age. Probably too young, because I started playing at Hillsong. We've got like extension services. I started playing at Asian extension service for a very long time. It's probably really bad. I can remember playing like this one beat the whole time, but like at different tempos. Probably like too young to play. They let me play because I needed a drummer, but I was definitely too young at the time. But it's funny because they let me play, and did that for ages. And then when I got to year 6, year 7, like youth age, is when I started attending youth, and then wanting to be involved at our Hills campus, which is like our main campus in Sydney. And
Right.
just been doing youth now for, I think this is my 10th year playing at youth and attending youth.
Are you still considered a youth?
I definitely feel like I'm getting older, especially like because there's a lot of younger kids coming out now who are definitely very, very talented. So I'm definitely feeling it. I'll be 23 this year in September, which is definitely not 15 and 16 like these younger kids who are just killing it. But yeah, definitely love the youth. So basically that happened, and I guess with Young and Free, obviously the story is that Hillsong United, that I'm sure everyone knows, they used to be the youth band, and obviously now that they're older with families and traveling a lot and doing amazing things, that they're obviously not in our youth ministry. In our youth ministry weekly, I should say, on a Friday night. So I guess there was just like a gap in a time where we needed to fill that sound, and our leader Laura had it on her heart, and it was on Brian's heart as well, that there was kind of like a need for a new sound and something fresh that hadn't been done before, I think is the best way I can say it. And yeah, just from like being in youth like my whole life and growing up in church, we never really like, there wasn't like auditions to be like in Young and Free or the music side of it. We kind of just kept doing what we've always been doing for like the past 10 years, and we still do. Like everything we've done is just what we do on a Friday night, and like, yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Oh, I love it. We'll get to a bit more about Young and Free later, but I feel like from maybe the outside looking in, when we see all these drummers from Hillsong on tour or on videos on YouTube or something, you guys got a lot of chops, and there's obviously there's definitely talent in that pool. And so who are some of your main influences, I guess, kind of looking to the church growing up at Hillsong, but even any external influences in the drumming world?
When you say a lot of chops, I just think about Harry Wood. he's our chop king. But obviously in church growing up, obviously Rolfie, who lives in Norway. right now, but he was definitely one of my biggest influences slash leaders. Like he raised me up and like taught me things like invaluable lessons about life that you just don't learn every day. And that's definitely shaped me as a drummer and as a person.
Mm.
But out of church, some of my favorite drummers from the gospel, kind of the choppy stuff, definitely like Thomas Bridgen, Tony Royster, obviously Aaron Spears is another
Yeah.
one. Favorite drummers as well, Dave Weckl, classic, Dennis Chambers. They're definitely the first five that come to mind. There's definitely so many, like Benny Greb, Matt Gasker, like so many people doing so many cool things. Like there's just so much content out there, I feel like.
And okay, and what's your main way of finding these guys? Is it Instagram? Is it YouTube?
That's a good question because when I was a kid and and YouTube didn't exist, it would be like through books and through like drum DVDs, go to music shop, buy a DVD. But now that obviously like the way the internet is with YouTube and social media and everything, you can honestly find like a new drummer like within like the few clicks of like your phone that's in your hand, which is crazy. Like recently I've seen this guy, I think you might know him, Orlando drummer, Adam.
Yeah.
Like he's just popped up on my feed. I'll click on a video, watch it for 15 seconds and be like, how's he doing that? Like it just sounds so awesome. So like just people and then like, yeah, so you just discover so many people tag you in things, like your
True.
musician friends will be like, check this guy out. And even if it's not drummers, be like, check this bass player out, check this keys player out, who just people everywhere just creating and doing like awesome things, which is really cool.
Wow. Oh man, for sure. Moving along to another question. Given the likes of some of the guys you've already mentioned who've gone before you at Hillsong, off the top of my head, I'm thinking like Rolf that we mentioned, Mabes, Paul Mabry, and
Yeah.
even Cobes. What is the drumming culture like at Hillsong? I've even seen on Instagram you did like a shed night where you have like 4 kits set up. What's the culture like for a drummer growing up at Hillsong?
Well, obviously I've grown up in it my whole life. And I think the best thing about it that I really appreciate is that the environment that's created is it's a very encouraging environment. And I think a big thing for us is that like no matter like what level you're at, it's not a judgmental environment and it's not a competition, which is really important. Um, obviously something that naturally happens is when not even with drums or with anything, you're always like comparing yourself to other people. And I think comparison is the biggest thing that will, I guess, can rob you of your potential.
Yeah.
I think what has helped is understanding that you just have to be you. And if you compare yourself, just compare yourself to yourself, like how you were yesterday and how you can better yourself. But never comparing yourself to other people. And I feel like the community that we have is always like friendship first. And that's such an important thing. Like with Harry, Cobes, JP, obviously all the drummers before, like Rolf, Gillies, Mabes, and all that stuff, is that it's always been relational. It's never been like a job or anything like that. But we've always been friends first. Like we'll hang out and just do life together. And obviously out of the same passion that we have, that's music, we just get together. And obviously we can do a shared if we, all that kind of stuff and teach each other new things. But yeah, very relational based, which is, I think, what keeps us like a family and keeps it healthy.
Wow. So cool, man. For the people listening that maybe they don't have the kind of culture or environment like you described, what advice can you give them just to encourage them if they feel alone at, hey, I'm the only drummer, I don't really have anyone to look up to? Is there any advice you can give them?
I would say, obviously, reading the Bible is very important. I feel like it builds the foundations and like the way you live your life and the way what you believe and just how you act is shaped upon the Word. And then family and friends, I think finding, and not even like if they are musicians, that's cool as well. But what I've found is that it's really important to find who you are outside of drums. Even if you love music or anything you're passionate about, I feel like it's so important to know who you are as a person before that, if that makes sense. Whether you can find that in your family, if you find that like at school with the friends or the groups that you have, but just finding people that will build you up. And they don't even have to be I feel like it does. Like some of my best friends like aren't musicians, you know what I mean? Like, but um, they just they put themselves last and they want to see me win. And I feel like when you have that same attitude with whoever's in your world, where you want to see your friends do better at life than you're doing at life, and but their attitude's the same, I feel like together that's what can kind of lift you up into like a better place to do good at life. So because of the friendship circles I have and the friends that I've made, they always encourage me, and I feel like they make me better in terms of like obviously me like wanting to be a drummer and all that stuff. They make me better at my craft, and it doesn't have to be drums; it can be anything. But yeah,
Wow, so cool. So, guys that are listening, you're not alone. And if you have no other musicians around you to encourage you, like Brendan said, find those people who will champion the cause and the calling that God has placed on your life. And if I can add one more thing off of what you said, it's knowing who you are versus what you do. And that's what you kind of touched on. So you're a child of God. God's called you. He's equipped you. And what you do is whatever you do. Playing drums is a part of that, but it doesn't make up in the total sense of who you are as a person. So good word. Touching on a bit of the issues of the heart, it's no doubt the success of Young and Free has kind of exploded globally. And, you just told us you're turning 23, you said?
yeah.
So how do you stay humble, given the success? I don't know how quickly, but to us, it feels like it's like within a year or two, Young and Free is a household name now. And so given that kind of success and your age being still fairly young, how do you handle that success and popularity, so to speak? How do you stay humble in the face of it?
Yeah, right. A couple for me anyway, a couple of things. I think the first thing is like the people around us. So like obviously like the musician I can't even talk. The band side of Young and Free. My brother, Furby, Jack, AK, Pat. I feel like we all look out for each other in the sense that like if anyone ever gets a big head, we're all pretty good at pulling each other back down to earth very quickly. So I feel like another thing that's helped as well, I guess, is just understanding like we're all literally just youth kids, who've done youth our whole lives, and I guess we all have the same vision and the same goal, which is just obviously wanting like people to meet Jesus and like find what we've found. But in staying humble, I feel like it's also a choice. It's like a daily choice that you make, I feel like even more so for me in the last year, I've learned more about like people and like understanding people and understanding that, we all not that different in the end. Like we all have like the same needs, the same wants, and like kind of just want relationship with each other. And for me personally, like understanding more about how to like talk. I feel like we meet a lot of people and just understanding and hearing so many amazing stories. I feel like, I feel like we're just trying to get along. And it's not, yeah. So I feel like it's never been like a crazy, like I don't think any of us have ever thought, even though like it looks successful, I guess the reach is good, which is awesome. But I feel like everyone's kind of got their head screwed on and no one's just like, I'm that awesome, because I don't think we are. But anyway, yeah.
So cool. No, it's, to us who are kind of on the outside looking in, we see it as, oh, Young and Free is coming, they're on tour. But from what I gather from talking with you even a bit last night, it's like we're just part of our church, and this is a ministry that we do.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly what it is. And like for us, like I think, it's just an honor, I guess. Obviously, it's Pastor Brian and Bobby's platform, and it's just an honor to represent them. And we're just all serving and trying to do our best.
Yeah. Amen. And I must say, you guys do it well. So props to you guys.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And so let's talk a bit. And by the way, for those of you listening, don't worry, we're going to get to the gear soon. So just hang tight. I'm just seeing questions pop up and all that. So hang tight. We're going to get to your questions soon.
Saw Furby
Um,
saying, "Nice haircut. Good, thanks for joining us."
yeah. And so, what we're gonna just a question about the new album. Let's talk a bit about that. And so, Youth Revival was released not too long ago.
Hmm.
Incredible music. And so, tell us a bit from your perspective what it means for you. What does Youth Revival, the album, mean, and the message especially?
This album's pretty special in the terms that obviously we had our first album in, oh, don't forget the year, 2013, late 2000. I think I released 2014, but we recorded 2013. But that album, and obviously, like, I feel like that went so well, like, to find the sound. But so I think everyone was a little bit scared with this album in terms of like how we're gonna. I guess everyone thinks that like how you're gonna one up or like top what they did
Sure.
last time. But I feel like I guess our team and our crew, like everyone who put in to this project, just went over and above and out of their way, like doing late nights, literally put for like that few months, just like putting all the energy, all the creativity into like ideas. And I feel like that's been translated really well. I feel like the songs are like honest. And I think you can hear that. And I feel like it got picked up. Well, it got captured on the night. I feel like it's something very honest and raw and like
Mm.
honest, like almost, I don't know if you can say, but like almost that sound of Youth Revival, which is really cool. And obviously for me, I feel like I want to give a shout out to like the unseen dudes like Tenny, Chisler, Wincop, and all those guys who actually like help produce the album and mix and all that kind of stuff, because they kind of tell us don't play that idea because it's not going to be awesome. Or like I've like me growing up personally had like a pretty rocky background, like listening to like some of my favorite rock bands growing up anyway would have been like Paramore, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of like influence on my drumming, but knowing that like some massive rock fill might not be the best fill, like I'll get told like maybe like see if there's like another fill that's like not getting in the way of like the melody and all that stuff, and I'll be like, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I think it's honest, it's really cool, and it's pretty special because of that to me, like just the way that project went about with Youth Revival, album wise, and then on a just on a meaning wise of what Youth Revival means to me, I think it just means like young people finding Jesus who have like never heard of Jesus before. And it sounds simple and it sounds cliche, but in saying that, like, I feel like there's so many people outside the church, like, so many of my friends who don't go to church, like, who would have never known any better just because like they'd never been invited to church or grown up in a Christian home like I have. There's so many young people in schools like all across the world who just I feel like want something, or they like feel like they need to feel something in their lives, but they don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
obviously there's they could obviously be looking at like, you know, parties and like obviously like alcohol and drugs, just trying to like fill a void in like the soul and in the heart kind of thing. I don't want to sound too spiro, but I honestly feel like for me with Youth Revival, it's like understanding that with God, like your life is kind of fulfilled, and with God you can live your life with purpose. And it's like it just, yeah, I don't know how to explain it well.
Yeah, no,
Like
it
huge
comes
school with words, but yeah.
and it comes through absolutely in the music. And I think you guys are definitely hitting a nerve with the young generation. So thanks for what you do, man. And the whole team behind Young and Free is incredible. All right, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. And you know what? I haven't even looked at the questions yet. And we're going to try to get through some. And how about this? Because I know that this question will come up if it hasn't already. Why don't you give us a gear rundown of,
Okay.
of what you're playing, cymbals and sizes, drums, hardware, sticks, anything that you could, when you survey the kit.
Yeah. Okay. At the moment, where do I start? I'll start with the drums. When we get backline, we can kind of like, or on the last trip that we did, I ordered a Ludwig Vista Light, which is like the see-through one, which surprisingly sounded really massive. I was like really surprised because acrylic, the shells, I'm pretty sure. So it's like, yeah, I've never played acrylic drums, but I was really surprised with the tone that I could pull from them. Obviously, working with Omar, our front of house guy, and yeah, we were like, sounds awesome. So I used that kit on this last trip. I've been using a Blackbird snare, which is like an Australian drum company, and I've got like it's the, what is it, the 6.5 by 14 snare.
And they're releasing that on
Yeah,
sale
yeah,
soon.
yeah.
No, there's a pre-sale,
Yeah,
pre-order.
It's coming out in a few months, I think it is. But I've been playing that prototype for more than a year now, and it's been super solid. Very, very similar to the Ludwig Black Beauty that I'm sure everyone knows. And yeah, so that's drums. Cymbals, I've been playing vinyl cymbals. I've got 18-inch hats, which are thin crashes. On the bottom is a 18-inch thin crash, vinyl Byzance. On the top is an 18-inch extra dry crash, which I just recently got. On the left, I'm playing a 21-inch vinyl Byzance traditional crash. My ride is a 22-inch medium thin jazz ride Byzance, and then a 22-inch medium Byzance crash on the right. It's hard to remember and say all these things. Sticks, I've been playing Promark for like 4, 5, 6, 7, a long time now. At the moment, I just got a brick of the 747Bs, which are real comfortable. I've actually been playing, so I've been doing that for like the past 3 years, but I've actually got a couple of pairs of 5Bs, which have felt really good. The hickory ones, not the Shira Kashi ones, which I usually don't like because to me it feels a bit short. But I think, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know if they changed something, but like I started to like play with them and it felt really, really good. So I'll either be using 747Bs or just a 5Bs hickory. That's about it. I don't know what else gear. I've got a SBD Roland SBD SX sampler pad, which is cool. Run the triggers, the Roland triggers on the kick and the snare. What else I got? Tama Rhythm Watch Click. I have Ultimate Ears. Shouldn't forget to say that. UE. I had UE 7s and for about 7 years, and then I just got UE 11s, which I really like because the difference is there's an extra driver. So there's 4 drivers and there's an extra bass driver, which is good if you don't have a sub behind you, because I feel like more often than not I wouldn't have a sub behind me, but that just helps a lot with the bottom end with the drum and bass stuff, which is cool. I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think so. We covered. Did you talk about hardware?
Oh yeah, hardware. What do I play? Hardware. I mean, I like the DW 9000 kick pedal just because it's like pretty solid. What else? DW. I usually go DW hardware with the stance. It's pretty solid. I kind of play a bit louder than softer, so it's good that it doesn't fall over and break. Yeah.
So sweet. What we should do, I know we're live, so you don't have to say yes, no pressure. It would be cool whenever you have time to get just an overhead shot, and we'll put it in with the show notes on the podcast.
Definitely easy, yeah.
All right, let's get to some questions from our worship drummer community. Ethan, who is your favorite monitor engineer?
That was a good question. We're pretty blessed at Hillsong, where we have some pretty high caliber engineers, to say the least. Our monitors guy, who's actually become like definitely up there on tour, is Eli Escotto, which is funny because he's like our tour manager. He's like an electric guitarist, plays guitar as well at church, plays on tour when Ben is like vomiting in the toilet and can't make it. But he's like doubled up. So he's done like all those things and like in-ears at the same time. And I think just because like we're like really, really, really good friends and then like he knows what I like. But we've got so many amazing engineers. So it's like
so cool.
Like amazing.
That was Ethan Kinnunen, by the way.
Yes,
so
yes.
It was an implied answer he was looking for.
I see what's happened here.
Yeah. It's all good. Okay, Ben Nicklin. It says click here to answer question, but I'll ask it first and then I'll click the button, awesome, just in case it disappears. Yeah. So Ben Nicklin's asking, what does the mix in your in-ears usually consist of?
That's a good question. I'm pretty track heavy, I feel like. and very click heavy. I know it's different because I know one of my good friends, D Mac, who plays at Hillsong as well. He's like one of my favorite drummers. I know he runs the click really soft, and like he knows he's in time because when he's covering it and the click disappears. But for me, it's like really, really scary. I only do that if I'm feeling like really confident. So for me, I have the click really loud, and I try to split the click in middle when I play. Just try to like sit on top of it as much as I can. And then pretty track heavy. Obviously, basses has to be in there just to make sure drums and bass is locking in with the kick patterns. I feel like that's really important, especially with the music we're playing in church. Recently, I've had pretty keys heavy mix, just because we have a lot of synths and a lot of lead lines coming from the synths, which is cool.
Nice.
And I do like guitar. If there's two guitarists, I'll usually pan them left and right just to how I see him. And then with the singers, I'll, depending on how I'm feeling, I'll either have only the worship leader, like pretty loud, like just as loud as like the rest of my mix, or I'll pan all the singers and have them really low in the mix just so I can hear everything. And I haven't didn't used to, well, I should say, but recently I've started to get a lot more of the ambience so you can like fill the room. Otherwise, obviously, if you're using in-ears, you can feel very deceiving and very dead, like you're like in a studio, but that's not the case.
So cool. Okay, so that's Ben. Thanks for writing in that question. By the way, if you want to ask your questions, you still have a bit of time to get them in. Just use the little tool where it says send a message. It's basically /Q, and then you type your question and it'll submit it straight to us in our questions panel. So next question is from Dustin Yeary. I think we already kind of answered this already in our discussion, but I'll ask it anyways. I cannot help notice how good of friends you, Harry, and Cobes are, along with other Hillsong drummers. How do you guys cultivate a community of growing musicians without becoming bitter or obsessed with being the best drummer at church?
Good question. Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. I'll just say, just knowing it's not a competition, like that's so important. Like, same thing again, comparison, killer. And knowing why, the why behind what we do is so important, because like the why behind why I've served playing at church my whole life is because like I want to see people connect with Jesus. I want to see people meet Jesus. It's never been, I want to play a gig. You know what I mean? That's why church is just so different to like playing in a gig and in a band. It's just none is like better than the other, because I've done both. I still do both, but it's just different in understanding like the mindset that you bring to it is that you're there to serve, and you're there to serve the service, which is very different to when you're like playing a gig and playing like in a band, which I love as well. But yeah, I think just understanding that helps a lot.
Awesome. Next question from John Ogilby. What do you use the controller to the left of your SPD for?
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. The controller to the left is a Novation Launchpad, which is basically just set up as a MIDI pad. So we assign keys to it, and it just fires the tracks live. And it's just easier than reaching down to the computer and like getting your hand with the mouse and finding it. You just press the button that's labeled, and then the track starts.
There we go. Easy peasy. Jacob Cushman, 18-inch hats, pros and cons.
Pros, in the music we play, you can open, when you have sizzled hats and like an opening chorus. I feel like when we played 14s, you weren't really able to, when it opened, it felt very small, like not washy, like a ride. So you always go to the ride in a chorus, but it allows you to do that in like the first chorus. If you don't want it to be as big as like the last chorus, just open hats and that's like super big. Cave is really good at doing that, like just chilling on the hats and like vibing. The cons obviously is the duration of the note is very long compared to like 13 inches or 14 inches. So if you're playing like a tight groove or 16s, you've got to make sure that everything you're playing is lining up as best you can. Otherwise, it sounds very messy. So there'd be my pros and cons.
Very cool. Very cool. Next question, Nathan Sai. Bruh, did you write the drum parts for the songs in Youth Revival? And what is your favorite song to play?
I guess I could say yes. I worked on it and had help from Cobes. and a guy called Grant Connerman. We spent a day in the studio just knuckling down and getting parts right. A lot of the fills I did come up with myself. I feel like Cobes and Grant helped a lot in terms of making sure that the groove supported the melody. Cobes is really good at doing that, and that's something I'm learning to do it more and more, just to make sure that the kick and the snare pattern supports that melody and doesn't take away from it. It's too easy now for drummers to overplay, I should say, or play something that's too busy that takes away from the melody. But in saying that, there's a right way to play busy in the moments that it's needed. But obviously, the album being very structured, or as structured as we could get it. Favorite song to play? That is a good question. Falling Into You's pretty fun. Never Alone's pretty fun. They'd probably be my two favorite songs. Oh wait, Real Love. Real Love. I forget Real. That song is fun to play live. Yeah, definitely Real Love, Falling, and then Never Alone, I think, are the fun drum ones, I should say.
Good. Let's move on. Next question from Jack McGrath. What is your favorite song to play from all the Young and Free songs?
Alive, just because we played it a million times. No, Alive's pretty fun. It's straight ahead. It's just so simple, but it's cool. Another one that, of all time, maybe End of Days. End of Days is pretty cool because it's so drum heavy. Alive or End of Days.
Nice. Geeker is asking, what should I do to practice to get better?
That is a good question. I got lessons and I still do get lessons, but I got lessons like my whole life for more than 10 years. I've had like 5 or 6, 7 different drum teachers. And I've tried to learn everything, even though like I should show you my bookshelf here. It's just like this many books stacked next to each other.
Take a picture and we'll include it on the show notes.
I will do. But obviously there's everything. Like there's a jazz book, obviously stick control syncopation. There'll be Code of Funk, which is a funk book. There'll be the Dennis Chambers book. There'll be like 5 Weckl books, like literally everything. Fusion, rock, double kick. I try to cover everything. And even though I'm not going to play a jazz gig or not going to play a Latin gig, I feel like by learning all those things, when I come back to doing what I am doing, which is playing in church a lot of the time, it makes everything I play a lot tighter. And I just feel like it's so good to just want to understand all the genres. For me personally, anyway, it's something I want to do. So I feel like as long as you're spending time, if you put the time in, I feel like that's the most important thing. Obviously, learn your rudiments. That's really important. I feel like that's underlooked a little bit by a lot of drummers, but that's been a big thing for me, doing rudiments every day.
Truth. One more question from Geeker. What gel do you use?
What?
I don't know if you mean hair gel or like a moon gel, but
okay, moon gel. I don't know what it's called. I use like it's blue. That's all I can say. I should know what it's called.
I think that is the moon. Like are they rectangular?
Yeah. Is it called moon gel?
Moon gel.
Moon gel. Yeah, there it is. And hair product. What's it called? It's the stuff that everyone uses, and I can't remember what it's called. It's left me. Hopefully, he didn't care about the hair product.
Obviously, I'm of no help to that. So. All right. Next question from Dustin Yeary again. Have any of your sound guys complained about the forward tilt of your snare?
Complained. I know what you mean. So obviously, when you tilt it forward, it's about 5 times easier to hit a rim shot. I think that they haven't necessarily complained, but I think understanding the rim you're playing to is so important. Obviously, if I'm playing like in the chapel, which is like a different venue at our church, which is like more of acoustic vibe, I'm not going to be like cracking a rim shot on 2 and 4. It's just about understanding the rim. It's so important. So I feel like you can still play with your snare tilted forward without hitting rims. Definitely possible. But just, understand the rim, I guess, and understand. I usually even have an ear out for those kind of services because, even in our big auditorium, as soon as we finish praise and worship, I always take an ear out when we're just playing behind the MC spot because I don't want to overpower. It's naturally the loudest, and it's so easy to be distracting like that. But yeah.
Nice. Next question's from David Faircloth. How do you switch clicks between Ableton and Rhythm Watch?
Okay, good question. Some of our tracks, when the song's finished, the clicks finish with them. Some of them, the clicks keep rolling until I press stop. So depending on which one, obviously, if it keeps rolling, I'll just leave it, and then when we finish up, I'll just stop it, go to the next song. But the songs that finish, and it does happen all the time in church. Songs will finish, the click stops, but then obviously there's still a moment, or the worship leader will want to take it somewhere. So then I'll always have on my rhythm watch the pre-programmed click. So say we do When the Fight Calls, which is 160, and it finishes, I'll have my click at 160, and then as soon as it finishes, as soon as I can, I'll bring that in time, and then I'll keep going with it. So keeping constant time on the ride, something that's still there, so the momentum keeps going. It's all about like making sure that the momentum doesn't drop too much. Yeah.
Nice. Next question from Ashley Nicole. Advice on developing limb independence.
I would say play jazz and play Latin music. Like the samba foot pattern, like the dum, the dum, the dum, the dum, and then being able to solo over the top of that helps heaps with separating your limbs. The other thing that jazz does is that same thing, keeping that ride pattern going, the swing, hats on 2 and 4, feathering the kick, massive independence thing, and then just practicing really slow, doing everything slowly, but making sure nothing specific, just making sure you're using your 4 limbs, like your 2 arms and your 2 legs. Yeah.
Nice. Next one's from Justin Spacavento. What is your favorite piece of gear?
Favorite piece of gear. I would just say my Ineos, because I just use them like almost every day. I think because like I love listening to music and try to listen to new music definitely every week. So I'd just say my headphones. Yes.
Sweet. Next question from Joshua Balu. What gave you the inspiration for the drum parts on Youth Revival? Again, we kind of touched on that a little bit.
I think just listening to a lot of different bands. I feel like it's super important to be really open with music, as in like I know people who are like, oh, I'm only going to listen to like jazz and nothing else, or I'm only going to listen to like hardcore metal and nothing else. But for me, just like being able to appreciate all styles of music, even though like I might not like a genre more than another, like I might like electronic music more than country music, but I'll still, if someone's so pumped on country music and they're trying to show me something, I'll like listen to it and try to find what I like about it, even though it might not be as many things. I still like, I don't know, just try to listen to everything and just be open. Like so many people want to help you, and I feel like so many people have ideas of just being like keeping an open mind, not being closed-minded and being like, it has to be this way, it has to be this part because I wrote this part, because obviously someone else, and a lot of the time someone else will have like a better idea than yours, and it's being humble enough to be like, yeah, I agree that your idea is better than mine, and I'll put my idea to the side. Yeah.
Cool. Next one from Ethan Kanunen. When are Young and Free releasing Forever Free?
Ethan with the jokes. Forever Free is like one of the first demos we ever did. Yeah,
too funny, man.
Good song.
Next question, Geeker. Where do you get your drum samples?
Drum samples, obviously, when you buy the SPD SX, it comes with a lot of samples, so I use some of those. As well as that, we make our own as well, and I feel like it's not too hard. A lot of us use Logic, so just dragging in, like getting like an 808 sample pack or whatever sample pack that you like, dragging it in and then just mucking around with it. I feel like that was pretty fun for us, and it still is, like just creating sounds. How you can just get a drag clap and just put heaps of verb on it, distort it, all that kind of stuff. Get a drag click, verb on it, distort it. Just making them, and obviously our producers, my brother Fatkin and Cam, have helped me as well, giving me some of their gems that they found.
Nice. All right, Jack McGrath, do you play any other instruments?
I've been practicing piano a lot. This is actually one of my piano teachers asking this question. I did play bass for a while. Kind of still got it. Not as good as Fabs. can play something. And I'm really bad at guitar. Wish I could play guitar. Just not good at it. Maybe one day.
Fair enough. Here's Jacob Cushman. Do you MD when you play? And do you ever call out numbers instead of chords, or does the cue take care of that?
It's a good question. Actually, on the cues, there aren't any chords. All the cues do for us is tell us that we're going to the chorus or going to the verse. Never what chords are coming out. But yeah, the MD will do all that stuff. I personally don't really MD, although sometimes they give me like a talkback mic, and because my brother is the MD, I'll kind of always pretend to call out numbers and chords, which are usually wrong as a joke. I think it's funny. He's probably sick of it. But yeah, at church a lot, we always use numbers, never really chords, always numbers. So that's something I've like tried to understand more and more, just because like it definitely helps. It definitely helps when they go. I remember when I first started playing at church, and the MD would be like, "All right, we're gonna crash out on the 4," because I didn't know anything about like numbers. I'd be like, "Does she mean like the 4th beat? Like 1, 2, 3, go?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm so confused right now." So that's definitely a big thing. Just understanding the basic terminology about numbers would definitely help with not having a train wreck.
Wow. No kidding. All right, I think we're reaching the end of our questions. I'll just see what we got here. All right, Joshua Baloo, is that sound going to make a Brendan Tan pack?
I wish. I wish Mabes would make me a pack. Mabes, that stuff is awesome. All those samples are so sick. At the moment, no. The answer is no. That's definitely a bucket list thing.
And probably our last question, unless we get a whole bunch of them coming in the last hour, so to speak. But Geeker is saying, do you eat before you play?
That's a good question, I guess. I try not to eat massively right before I play, just because obviously it's like running. If you have a massive meal and workout, you just want to throw it up kind of vibe. But if I'm starving, I'll just definitely eat like obviously banana, something that's gonna like give you energy. Yeah, I try not to. I don't really ever think about it, but I have recently because I'm trying to be healthy and exercise and all that kind of stuff. Trying to eat like heaps.
Tell us about your milk.
Oh gosh, I posted a Facebook status saying I'm trying almond milk, and after it was bad, but now after a week it's been really good, which is cool. I'm just trying to be healthy, eat like 5 times a day, get my metabolism up, and just work out and just be healthy.
Good on you, bro.
Which is good.
So cool. Well, listen, it's been almost 45 minutes.
Yeah, right.
I think we've satisfied most of the questions. Hope you guys have enjoyed this time with Brendan Tan. And you can always find him on Instagram at Rendon Bay.
Yes, it's my name in Pig Latin. Everyone gets confused.
Yeah. I just take it for what it is. It sounds like a name. So.
It's too late to change now. It's too late.
Oh, wait. Jared Batson, can you give me lessons?
He can give me lessons.
Oh, man, too funny. Hope you're doing well, bro. We got to connect, Jared.
Yes.
Yeah, so anyways, this has been so fun. Thanks so much for everyone who's joined us. This will also be available next week. We'll release it in the audio format for a podcast. You can listen to that at worshipdrummer.com/podcast. And as well, we're going to try to get some pics from Brendan of his kit, of his bookshelf. I'll send you an email later just to remind you. And we'll just post some of those pics in the show notes on the website. And guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want us to do more of these kind of things, just shoot me an email. I'd love to hear from you, John, Jon, at worshipdrummer.com. And just let me know what you thought of tonight or today, whatever day this is for you. It's Thursday night for me, Friday afternoon for Brendan. But that's the beauty of technology. We can be literally across the world. And as long as we're both up, we can do this kind of stuff. So Thanks for hanging with us, and we hope you guys have a great night, great day, great weekend. And as a closing question for you, Brendan, um, one thing, our hashtag, our motto has always been about putting the heart before the beat. And maybe just in closing, can you leave us with one piece of advice? It could be a practical drumming thing, or it could be a spiritual, heart piece. But just leave us with one piece of advice for worship drummers in the local context.
One piece of advice I'd say is just practice. And if it's something you want to do, I feel like something that's really important for me and that's worked for me is that it has to be fun. And because it's fun for me, like I was able to practice for like 3 hours a day for like 3 or 4 years. And if you want to do something, you just do it, and eventually you'll just be doing what you want to do. That's all it is, honestly. Like you just keep doing what you want to do in life, and it's good.
So cool, man. So there you go, guys. Take that advice, take it to the bank. And I know that if you're faithful with little, the Bible says God will entrust you with much. So the same principle applies in what we do as drummers. So we take that. All right, I'm going to stop recording now, but we can recording because this is still good.
This all can be used. You can cut stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sure.
I just need to grab my pad. Give me 2 seconds.
For this part, we're going to charge $5 for all of you watching. Send it to Brendan.
This is something a guy, I don't know if you know a guy called Mitch Farmer. I took lessons from him for like years, and it was really, really good for me. He taught me this. I don't know if you can. I need to angle this a bit better.
Yeah.
Okay. What I practice, and something that I feel like not a lot of people know, is the smaller muscle you use, the faster you can play. So in terms of speed, if you're practicing, I try practicing just getting my fingers to go. So if you look at my hand, your wrist is staying still, but your fingers are moving. So your fingers do it and your wrist don't do it. Whereas if you use a bigger muscle, say I use my wrist, you can still play fast, but obviously because it's a bigger muscle, you can't play faster. It kind of slows you down. So just get used to doing that. I do this a lot. Put the stick above your head and just pull your fingers into your palm, because the gravity goes the other way, so you don't have to do as much work. You just do that, which makes it really easy. And then you practice getting it down where gravity doesn't help you, and then do it on the pad. That's how I build my speed. And I do it with a click. So I'll do like practice routine wise, I actually do 5 minutes on my left hand every day around start at like 100 or 120, something slow. Just do 8 notes, 1 and 2 and then move up to you get to like 160, 200 comfortably. Left hand 5 minutes, right hand 5 minutes, and then both hands doing 16th notes for 2 minutes. And that's like what I do before I even hop on the kit every day when I practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good. Let's look at some other questions. How's your relationship with the front house engineer? Does he work with you guys on stuff like sound and making it sound exactly like you want? Versus what he wants.
I feel right. First of all, definitely like very good. Like before we even start, I'll like make a point. If like obviously Omar, I see him all the time, but I'll obviously say hello, talk to him, and make sure that everything is working. Because at the end of the day, your goal is to get the best sound together. So if you're like picking it as like you guys are two different teams, come on my team, like it's not really gonna work. So understanding that that you're gonna trust your front house guy enough and know that what he's doing. And obviously what you can do on your end is make sure the drums are tuned. Like so much of the time, if you just sit on the kit after someone else has played it at church, it's going to be detuned just because after you finish playing, you don't really tune it up again. So just making sure that everything's like coming out nice and doing your part. And I feel like that gives the front house guy the best opportunity to pull the best sounds. And I definitely trust all our front house guys, best dudes, and they just know what they're doing. So it's cool.
Nice. There's a question about, here from Lucky Nas. 1, do you ever get nervous and it affect your playing?
That was a good question. I used to always get nervous, especially when I was younger. I remember one time, distinctively remember when I was like 10 and playing at church. For the whole set, I'd just pick like one spot, like a chair, and I'd stare at the chair for 20 minutes and just play the beat, not look up, not look at any. That's how nervous I got. But nowadays, not too bad now. I think the only thing, if I got nervous, it'd be like a God nervous, meaning like I kind of don't want to get in the way of like what God would want to do in a service and just, want to not be a distraction and just serve that service. So that's the kind of nervous I get now. Just like being able to serve God in the honor that it is and never forgetting that. Because if you do it for a long time, it's very easy to get familiar with that stuff. But just keeping that in check is important.
Nice. Nico Fuentes is asking, what are your drum rituals before a concert? Are there any energy drinks involved?
And I used to drink so many energy drinks, but I've definitely stopped because I feel like everyone knows that they're bad for you, but you still drink them. Ritual wise, especially on tour, I'd definitely try warm up every night before we play. I know that when I don't warm up, as soon as we get into like the second song, my whole arm is like cramped up because it's just so tight. So making sure you get those cramps out in warm up is super important before you play. I feel like that only happens when I play really hard though. If I'm playing at a like nice volume, it shouldn't affect me too much. But if I'm playing hard, I'll definitely make an effort to warm up, especially avoiding injuries, man. Injuries are the worst. It's so scary. So I feel like it helps that.
Have you ever been injured?
I have not, which is kind of good. I've obviously had like, my back gets really sore. I try to keep really good posture and technique, but just from like what drumming is, I feel like all drummers have bad backs because like sitting on a stool for like 3 hours is just not a good thing. And I know some of my friends have had like some wrist injuries and hand injuries. So I feel like technique. That's why technique's so important if you're gonna be playing every day, making sure you get lessons and learn that stuff because you don't want injuries.
Yeah, absolutely. Question: DW 5000s versus 9000s.
At the moment, I've always got 9000s. I think the 5000s are a bit heavier. I think, if I'm not mistaken. I play both. I've honestly got taught something Rolf taught me was like play the crappiest pedal you've ever played, and then that way, wherever you go, you can play. You know what I mean? Like if you play on a crap pedal, you can play on a good pedal. But if you can play on a good pedal, maybe you can't play on a crap pedal. So being able to do both. But I'd say 9000 if I had to pick one.
Nice. Big question. Why don't you guys record your drum sheds when you and Harry and the other guys play?
Because we suck. No, I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's fun. Maybe we should. I just feel like it's like, it definitely pushes it more towards the competition side of things. But every time before we do a show, which isn't too often, but every time we do, we always say like, it's just about fun. It's never like a competition kind of thing. And I feel like we're all more groove based, or like think we like go towards like musical groove based side rather than the choppy side. Like, yeah, but it's just fun to chop them.
Here's a question. I didn't read it, but I'm thinking it. Any girl drummers come through the ranks at Hillsong?
I thought you were going to say in general. I was just going to say Annika Niles. Have you heard of her? She's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All the subdivision stuff. I'm like, man, this is hectic. Yeah, there's been a few girl drummers. The first one that comes to my head is Megan Rousseau, who's from the States. She just moved back. Super good girl drummer. But there's definitely there's not heaps of girl drummers. There's definitely more guys than girls. I don't know why. I think that's just how it is. But yeah, it's definitely been a few. Really good as well. Really good.
Cool. I ask in case there are other female worship drummers with us. So lots of fun. So there's some questions about the SPD, SX, and the triggers. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. So when you play live, does your kick, snare, trigger go in the SPD? That's from David Faircloth.
Yes. So I'd plug my kick and snare trigger into the sub outs, which you can assign. And then that way the front of house has separate lines. It's really important that you don't send the triggers out of the master out, because then it's coming out of both the audio lines, if that makes sense, like the SPD lines. So altogether, I'll run 4 lines. It's pad, stereo, left and right, kick trigger down the 3rd line, and then snare trigger down the 4th line. So running it out of the sub outs lets it have its own thing where you can control that, and it doesn't have to be like ridiculously loud, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Actually, this is a cool question from drummer 5BN. How do you improve at general memorization with so many items, songs, and services?
That's a good question. At church, it's kind of like a standard to know at least the latest albums that we've released. Latest Young and Free album, latest Hillsong United album, and latest Hillsong Worship album as a standard. And obviously there's always songs from older albums that we'll play. Obviously nothing too hectic, like we're not going to play like, I don't know, like Father I or like One Way. I haven't done those ones in a while. But in terms of memory, I just try, I think it's, you get like I think you build it up in terms of like when you hear a pattern and then you hear it played on another song, you refer back to that pattern. So for me, when I hear a pattern and it comes up again, I already know it from the other song I learned, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
just being able to like build it up. And that's why I think it's good to keep listening to music every day and just hearing things. If you can hear something, you can pick it up. You can usually play it straight away once you get used to it, which is a really good trick.
Nice. Are you guys planning on posting the BGVFX? Is that background vocal effects patches for Young and Free on multi-tracks?
So this is the side of things I don't know much about. I've heard of multi-tracks and how like I think you can get the Young and Free tracks through it. I honestly don't know. I wish I knew.
Okay, these questions are still coming, man. Have you ever messed up on church? And when you do mess up, what is your reaction and how do you solve it?
Everyone has had that one moment. Like everyone has had that one moment where it just train wrecks. And I guess nowadays, if I'm being serious, if you mess up, you obviously like the number one thing is you don't stop. You just keep going. And when people know you just keep going, is the never stop is what is my first answer. I'm trying to think of like the biggest mess up I've had. There's probably too many that I can't even think of one. I think I can't think of one because like recently I've been pretty good. Like I've been like following pretty good, but there's always one. I feel like what's a big one? Bringing in like, okay, here's one. We do. This is a recent one. On the last trip we do Passion, but now because the song Passion, but now because there's like a lot more, there's like a keyboard in the middle of the stage that we never had. There's a sample pad up front, so everyone's moving around. So what I have to remember is like give people time like to get to where they need to go to. So I start Passion, but most of my brother plays that on piano. He goes from guitar to piano. But he's like, I didn't look up. I don't know why. I should have looked up. Always look up. I didn't look up. My head was down, and I was just like, okay, Passion's next. So I'm like, okay, Passion. So I start it, and I look up. And there's no one sitting at the piano, and he's still walking over. So I'm like, okay, this is not good. So I stop it, and he's looking at me. He's like, why'd you stop it? Giving me the why'd you stop it face. I'm like, you weren't at the piano. That's my latest biggest stuff up, I think, and then we just started again.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, but that stuff always happens. The best thing to do is laugh about it. Don't get down about it. It's too easy to be like, oh man, I stuffed up, never gonna play again. But just laugh about it. I don't know why. It's the best thing to do. Laugh about it and then just move on. Yeah,
move on. Yeah, keep going. Interesting question. I actually wanted to ask this but forgot. So Pablo Ignacio _KO is asking, the gaffer tape in your SPD is cool. So it's not a question, but how do you tape it all up and get that bright pink going?
Oh, yeah, all it is just fluoro tape. The reason why I do it is because usually what happens when we start a song or songs that start with the SPD and the lighting guy decides to black out. I can't see anything. So the first time I have my SPD, because it comes black, they black out. I'm like trying to hit the 808 kick and I can't see anything. So I'm like, this isn't good. So that's the only reason why I do it. It's just because like I want to be able to see when it goes dark and it helps that. Yeah.
Well, it's cool. I think it's like a fashion statement if we
Yeah,
can say
sure.
that.
Pink, pink, pink.
Pink, pink. Um, let's see. What is something people who support you can help you with the most from afar? Backline, HILC students, etc. You are crushing this session.
Oh, um, support. I don't know. Just have fun, hang out, practice. I like it when people tag me in things. That's cool. I love watching new things. I feel like that's my favorite thing. Just constant learning and the constant shock. You know, when you see someone do like a dope groove
Nice.
or you see
Uh,
someone do a crazy lick, you're like, why didn't I think of that? And then the first thing you want to do is like run over to the drum kit and try it. It's like getting bitten by like the practice bug. You see something, you're like, this is sick. And then you're like, first thing you do is like run over and see if you can do it. And then you can't do it. And you're like, okay. And then you just spend like an hour trying to like do it slowly so you can do it. That's probably a good thing.
cool, cool. Um, did you study in Hillsong College? That's an interesting question.
I did not. I didn't. I actually haven't. I did high school here. I think you guys call it senior school in America. Finished high school, which is like year 12. And then I haven't studied since. I've just been playing music, teaching. Obviously, is like my work. I teach at a school, teach at One Maker Academy, and I teach from home, teach on Skype. That's like my main thing. But I haven't done Hillsong College yet. No, I've grown up in Hillsong my whole life, though. If that's anything.
Nice.